Hey, what up everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. I know that I have not put up any WrestleMania reviews on the road to WrestleMania. I know for the past few years, basically as I sit down and await the countdown until WrestleMania, I sit down and I watch past WrestleManias and I put reviews up here on YouTube, sort of counting down and letting everybody know what I'm watching in the meantime. This year, the road to WrestleMania has honestly been a little bit different. I know that the WWE Network is a year older. I remember last year I knocked out a few of these reviews on the way, and it was really fun because around this time they were showing the WrestleMania Recall show, and for that reason I wasn't reviewing the actual show. Basically I would watch the show and then I would watch the WrestleMania and review the whole WrestleMania. What a fool I was. I should have just been doing reviews of the show and instead of doing reviews of the whole show. But looking back, it is what it is. Maybe I'll be going back and watching those. But I'm almost out of time. It's Sunday. I'm leaving for WrestleMania on Wednesday. But I watched WrestleManias that meant something to me. I did watch these over a week ago. It might even have been 2 weeks ago at this time. But I went back and I wanted to watch WrestleManias that when I told reviews, I would have actual stories to go along with them instead of just saying, like, I watched the show, these are the results, and this is what I remember. Basically, you know, WrestleMania VI took place in 1990, which would make me 9 years old. You know, when I watch WrestleMania VI, this is a WrestleMania that was really trotted out as being one of the best WrestleManias last year after WrestleMania 30 with the Ultimate Warrior going into the WWE Hall of Fame at WrestleMania 30. He had his tragic passing, and this was one of the things that they kept putting up for you to watch on the live stream, to sort of remember Ultimate Warrior at his, his highest peak of his career, winning the championship from Hulk Hogan, and it's what you remember. I mean, it's Hogan versus the Ultimate Warrior, the Ultimate Challenge. It's on the poster. It's the biggest match that's on this card. When I looked at this card up, I couldn't believe the fact that they hosted 14 matches on the main card, including one dark match, making 15 matches that they saw that night in Toronto. This was the first WrestleMania that was held outside of the United States, them crossing the border and going to the new SkyDome. This was supposed to be like the state-of-the-art new domed stadium. It was the big deal back in the day that it had a retractable roof that would open and close. It just blew my mind. Around this time, I think the Blue Jays were starting to become contenders, so they were on television, and every time they showed a game from the SkyDome, or I saw it in pictures, it was a must-see event. So actually WWF going there to host a WrestleMania was a big deal. The next time I would probably see something big out of this was when the Blue Jays would go on for the World Series. I believe that would be 1992 and 93 is when they were at their peak. Of course, beating the Braves and the Phillies. Everybody remembers Joe Carter and Mitch Williams. I believe that was it. It had to be in Toronto. But really, really good stuff. Everybody knows the build-up to Hogan versus Warrior would be at the Royal Rumble 1990. Warrior and Hogan came down to each other. It's one of my favorite Royal Rumble spots of all time. Out of all the matches that they've ever done at the Royal Rumble, having Hogan and Warrior bump into each other, and Warrior's beating his chest, and Hogan's looking at him. He can't tell if the Ultimate Warrior has a stronger force than Hulkamania. And these guys, basically they lock up, and then they hit the ropes. They're running back and forth, side to side, crossing, and everybody's just waiting for them to hit each other. And these guys really do nothing. And the crowd is just going crazy. It's a feeling that if you saw this as a kid and you watch this, the world stops spinning. And you just sit there and you just watch this. And from there, Hogan would challenge Warrior, and then Jack Tunney would step in and make the match, which would be the Ultimate Challenge, the WWF Championship going up against the Intercontinental Championship, and both belts were going to be on the line. Looking back at this match, how did I not know that Hogan was going to lose? I feel like such a goof to the fact that I thought Hogan was actually going to beat Warrior. What was Hogan going to do with the Intercontinental Championship? I have no clue. I remember telling my friends basically a lie. I remember telling my friends that, after, Warrior had taken the WWF Championship and become WWF Champion, of course he was going to, before they had crowned a new Intercontinental Champion. I remember telling my friends some stupid story about Jack Tunney offered Hulk Hogan the Intercontinental Championship, and he turned it down because if he wasn't going to be the main champion of the company, he didn't want to be champion at all. And how funny was I? I didn't know about any of the backstage politics or anything like that, but that's Hulk Hogan to a T. But I remember that from hearing Dave Meltzer with Wrestling Observer and things like that, basically the plan for Hogan and Warrior was that basically Ultimate Warrior was going to become the face of the company. Shortly after this, Hulk Hogan left WWF to go film, I believe, Suburban Commando. It was a big movie with Christopher Lloyd, and I can't remember who the actress is, but she was the actress from the Popeye movie with Robin Williams. She played Olive Oil in that, and I guess that was sort of like a big star at the time. Me not being remember her name all these years later. I guess she's not the biggest star in the world. But Hulk Hogan was like a alien from outer space that came here to protect the Earth. I remember the movie. I don't remember the plot that well. It also stars a Undertaker. I believe it's the only movie that he's ever been in. But he looked straight out of WWF at the time. He's got the beard and the white face pretty much. I think he plays another alien that chokes Hulk Hogan in an elevator. But, he would come back at SummerSlam to fight the Earthquake in a big main event match there as Ultimate Warrior fought against ravishing Rick Rude. The pay-per-view started with Rick Martel going up against Koko Beware in a singles match. Like I said, there's 14 matches on this card. There's only 2 matches that go over 10 minutes, 1 match at the 9-minute mark. A lot of these matches were nothing really to it. Getting the guys in the ring, wrestle for a minute like a Superstars match, and get them out of there. That was this match. Martel beat Koko Beware. From there we go to Demolition, one of my favorite tag teams of all time, going up against the Colossal Connection, which was the team of Andre the Giant and Haku, managed by Bobby Heenan and the Heenan family. The Colossal Connection came in as the champions at this point. This was really the downfall of Andre the Giant. This was his last real big hurrah in the wrestling business, was him wrestling on this show, coming in as the champion. Demolition was able to get the better of the Colossal Connection, and after the match, you saw Bobby the Brain Heenan blaming Andre the Giant and sort of belittling him right there in front of all the fans there in Toronto that day. And basically Andre took offense to the fact that Bobby Heenan struck him, and he basically turned on Bobby Heenan, and then as Andre turned around, Haku tried to attack him. I believe Andre catches the big boot and then whoops up on Haku. At this point, Andre the Giant walks back to the motorized cart, which takes wrestlers from the entrance to the ring, since it was in the SkyDome, and it was such a long way, they didn't want the wrestlers walking their way down to the ring, so they had these motorized carts. In my opinion, I always dreamed that they bring these back for WrestleMania. There's a reason why they probably don't do it anymore, but it would just be a kick to see this just one time, even if it's just for one guy's special moment. If it's maybe Curtis Axel this year, an Axelmania for WrestleMania 31 on his way to the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, if he brings it back just for him, it'd be pop of the night, honestly, in my opinion. But Andre the Giant whoops up on both of these guys into the ring, and as the motorized cart is about to take off with Bobby Heenan in it, Bobby takes one more bump as Andre grabs him, throws him out of the motorized cart, and drives back to the back by himself. From there we go to a match between Earthquake beating Hercules. We have a match between Brutus the Barber Beefcake beating Mr. Perfect. This, of course, is the end of Mr. Perfect as a babyface. No, I apologize. This is the end of Mr. Perfect as a undefeated wrestler. This was him taking his first loss in a pretty so-so match, but after this, Mr. Perfect would be alright. He won a tournament on WWF Superstars in order to be crowned the new Intercontinental Champion, which would be his first run with the Intercontinental Championship belt, sort of elevating him to the point where soon he would be going up against Hulk Hogan. He was a guy that WWF had a lot of good plans in him when they brought him in. Perfect ran through the company. I think he went undefeated for a year. I can remember him wrestling at WrestleMania 5 against the Blue Trailblazer, being Owen Hart in a really good match. So I believe his undefeated streak was at least a year. From there, Roddy Piper fought against Bad News Brown. That match ended in a double countout. This is the match that Roddy Piper, came to the ring dressed in his blue wrestling attire, but painted his body half black and left the other half white. I've never really heard a real reason on why Piper did this, but Piper gets a huge ovation because he comes out and doesn't take the motorized cart that everybody else was taking. He made the walk to the ring just to be as a part of the fans, because as you can remember, if you go back to WrestleMania 3, that was Roddy Piper's retirement match. So every time Piper came back for a match, we didn't know if it was going to be the last one, and people really loved Roddy and connected with him. Of course, Roddy would come back and wrestle against Bret Hart in the Intercontinental Championship match. Probably, in my mind, one of the best matches in Piper's career. So this wouldn't be the last hurrah. Of course, you still have WCW days, as well as WrestleMania 25, wrestling against Chris Jericho, which I'm pretty sure is Roddy's last big match that he's had. He's probably wrestled other ones, but that's the last one I can remember. From there we go to the Hart Foundation beating the Bolsheviks as Bret Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart attack them as they're singing the Russian national anthem, beating him in 19 seconds. Barbarian beats Tito Santana. Then we go to a real fun tag match of Dusty Rhodes and Sapphire beating Randy Savage and Queen Sherry. Nothing really big and spectacular about this match, but Dusty Rhodes and Sapphire had great charisma to them. They always really played off the crowd, and the crowd played to them really, really well as well. One of my other favorite tag teams would be the Orient Express wrestling against the Rockers. This honestly was a very, very good match. Orient Express cranks out the win against the Rockers here, which from there we go to Jim Duggan wrestling against Dino Bravo. Duggan gets the win. DiBiase was able to beat Jake the Snake Roberts by countout. I don't think that was the start of Virgil's babyface turn, but I think that might have been the next WrestleMania. I'm getting it confused with, but I'm not 100% sure. But that stood out in my mind as something happened during that match. But DiBiase was able to get the win over Roberts. From there, we go to the Big Boss Man wrestling against Akeem, which of course would be the breakup of Big Boss Man and Akeem, who were known as the Twin Towers. Boss Man beats Akeem in under 2 minutes. Nothing really big and spectacular about this match. And then we have Rick Rude beating Jimmy Snuka in the match before the main event. For there we go to the Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan coming out. I believe it's Gorilla Monsoon on commentary with, you can cut the tension with a knife. Just, how big this was. As they were coming to the ring, they interviewed fans that were piling around, buying their hot dogs, buying their nachos, their sodas and their beers before the match, asking who they thought was going to win this. And it honestly was 50-50. Some people really thought that Hogan was going to pull it out because we'd been to WrestleManias the year before, minus WrestleMania 4, when Hogan lost in the tournament to Andre the Giant by double DQ. We'd never seen Hogan lose a big match on the big stage. The Ultimate Warrior was the guy that had been in the company for a short time. He had run through a lot of guys, and people were really, getting behind him. But how many times have they built up a big guy and Hogan just beat him, and they just move on to the next guy? So, it was 50-50 in the match. You can say the Ultimate Warrior gets blown up in it, but I don't know. Honestly, when I watched this match, Hogan and Warrior put on a damn good wrestling match, and I'd still watch this like I was a little kid back in the day. Even though the first time I saw this match, I knew that Warrior had won because basically they had rebranded all of the shows. That it wasn't the new generation like it was with Bret Hart starting it over. But I remember the first episode of WWF Superstars, which came on the next weekend. It had a brand new opening with Ultimate Warrior holding the belt, so I knew that Warrior had beat Hogan. But I still, when I watched that VHS, I wanted to believe maybe they were wrong and maybe Hogan found a way to pull it out. But Warrior wins the belt, and then you can go and you can talk about what happened after the match with Hogan going out of the ring and crying and taking the belt, handing it to Warrior, sort of passing the torch, and then the camera staying on Hogan as he pulls away. A lot like with Rock and Cena after WrestleMania 29, the camera stayed on Rock and Cena just stood at the top of the ramp just waiting for the camera to finally pick up on him like, hey, I won the match. It's basically a lot of the same thing, but the fireworks go off. WrestleMania 6, damn good WrestleMania. Should be on your list. If you've got a few days and you got some time, make sure you watch this one before WrestleMania 31.